Hello, I'm Jake.
And I'm Olivia.
And welcome to the Buc Buzz. So, Olivia, have you ever wondered why there's no more video rental stores?
Yeah, it seems like the only place you can rent a movie now is at those Redbox.
I know, right? I remember going to a video store that used to be where Yoberry is now, and also going to Blockbuster over by Price Chopper. It's so weird that video stores are almost non-existent now. For more, we're going to send it over to Tanner Wengen with an in-depth look at why those video stores are a thing of the past.
Do you miss walking into video rental stores? Do you miss the scent of popcorn and chatting to the store manager about their recommendations? I certainly do, and as time goes on, the absence of video rental stores has made me more and more upset. Whenever I think about them, I get nothing but feelings of nostalgia and good memories, and I've been starting to wonder a lot more about why they're so rare to come across nowadays. I'm sure a lot of you out there have never experienced going to a video rental store, or possibly don't even know what a video rental store is. Before going to Netflix or downloading movies was a thing, you had to go to a video rental store in order to watch movies at home. The process was pretty simple. You go in, pick a movie or game from their selection, and then check out at the desk. If they didn't have what you were looking for, you'd have to go back and find something else from their selection, but even if you did know what you wanted to get, the various and tempting other titles on display definitely made the decision of what to get more difficult. There's been a decline in the amount of video rental stores around, because truthfully, they don't have the same roles they used to. Aside from watching it on TV or borrowing it from your friends, the only way you could watch a movie without paying for the entire thing was by renting it. Convenience was actually pretty limited, as you had to drive to your nearest video rental store, pick it up, drive home, and then drive back and drop it off whenever you're done with it. Big competitors of video rental stores like Netflix, Hulu, and Redbox eliminated much of the hassle and made customers much more satisfied than video rental stores did. Before Netflix introduced their online streaming service, they were a DVD by mail company offering a monthly rate for rentals mailed to your house. You could send them back whenever you felt you were done with them, eliminating the restrictions and limits on how long you could have your rentals. And for the most part, they never ran out of copies of the movie or TV show you were looking for. But of course, if people didn't want to wait a few days for their movie to come in the mail, they could just go pick it up at a rental store, which still allowed business for both sides of the spectrum. Redbox was founded in 2002 and quickly became a household name by the late 2000s. Rather than Redbox being a video rental store, it's a kiosk, so obviously it costs less to operate. These kiosks are in front of various grocery stores and gas stations, and eliminated the hassle of walking into a video rental store. You could go pick up and drop off rentals while going to the grocery store, and all you had to do was select the movie or game you wanted, pay with your credit card, and that's it. Plus, the rentals were much cheaper than those at a video rental store. You could also have your rental for as long as you wanted to with Redbox, with additional charges on your credit card for any extra days you have the rental. As of early 2013, Redbox had 47.8% market share of the physical rental market, and surpassed the amount of Blockbuster locations in the US in 2007. Also, there's much more Redbox kiosks than video rental stores overall. At the moment, there's only one video rental store in Oswego, but there's 3 Redbox locations. And then came the rise of the internet, especially wireless internet. With Netflix introducing its online streaming service and other platforms like Hulu emerging, the need to go get physical rentals was eliminated. All you have to do is pay a monthly fee, and you can choose from thousands of movies and TV shows to watch anytime, anywhere, instantly. The only major downside of these streaming services is that there tends to be a delay of several months for newly released titles to finally appear on them, but other than that, these streaming platforms have so many pros that outweigh the cons of going to a video rental store. The sad truth of the situation is that former movie rental giant Blockbuster actually had the opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million in 2000, but declined the offer. And actually, the co-founder of Netflix, Reed Hastings, came up with the idea for Netflix after having a $40 late fee from Blockbuster for having the movie Apollo 13 for too long. He thought it would be better to offer rentals in a similar style to the subscription business model of gyms, thus coming up with the idea for Netflix. And after realizing that certain competitors were gaining more of the rental market, Blockbuster tried utilizing their methods as well, and quite frankly had a late entry to all of them. Blockbuster tried operating a mail rental service, they tried opening up kiosks, and they even tried to have an online streaming platform, all of which horribly failed. After filing for bankruptcy protection in 2010 and being sold to Dish Network, Blockbuster closed down their remaining stores in late 2013, and ended on a bittersweet note, with their last movie available for rent being the 2013 comedy This Is the End. Not only has the video rental market drastically declined, but also the market for home media itself. The growth in online streaming and digital downloads has essentially eliminated the purpose of buying the physical copies for many people. There's a lot of convenience to the digital side of things, and improvements in wireless technology have made it so you can watch movies anywhere, at any time, at the touch of your fingers. If you're thinking that you won't be able to experience going to a video rental store anymore, don't worry, they're not entirely extinct just yet. Aside from the smaller and independently owned stores, the only large chain of video rental stores that still exists in the United States is Family Video. And according to an employee I spoke to, Netflix isn't actually the biggest competitor of video rental stores. The biggest competitor that he mentioned were the on-demand services, like those offered by cable providers and digital platforms like iTunes and Google Play, because movies are released on that platform at the same time as the physical ones. And although it's more expensive, it's much more convenient. Even though there are more convenient and easier means of watching movies, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're better. Video rental stores offered an atmosphere and experience that you couldn't get from logging into Netflix or using the touchscreen of a Redbox kiosk. With that said, I still definitely try my best to support my local video rental businesses because there's no doubt in my mind that one day they'll be gone. The former Blockbuster of Oswego is now a Metro Mattress and Payless shoe store, and you can still slightly recognize that it used to be a Blockbuster. Here's some food for thought. How much different would the video rental market be today if Blockbuster bought Netflix or didn't make all those silly business decisions? What if the internet didn't emerge to its current stance today, and how would that affect the home media market? Anyways, I'm Tanner Wengen reporting for WVUC.
Well, it's pretty disappointing that most of these stores are gone, but it seems like Netflix and Hulu have taken their place anyways.
Yeah, I agree. It is quite tragic.
Now on a more serious note, Dylan Papa tackles the issue of domestic violence and stalking among intimate relationships, with January being Domestic Violence Month and Stalking Awareness Month. There's no better time to learn about such a tragic and prevalent issue that affects our community.
January, the National Domestic Violence and Stalking Awareness Month, a month giving awareness and aid to those who have issues with a significant other or a person who has been continuously stalking them. Domestic violence is violent or aggressive behavior within the home, typically involving a partner or spouse. When most people think of domestic violence, they imagine a situation where the abusive partner physically hurts the victim. But of the types of domestic violence, physical abuse is only one of the forms. Domestic violence can be physical, emotional, psychological, financial, or sexual. Being victimized by a situation of domestic violence can create feelings of helplessness and even self-doubt. So it's important that someone can understand the different signs of abuse so that you can identify the problem and get help. Many cases of domestic violence go unreported. Many victims, whether being a man or a woman, try to justify the unrightful acts done to them by their partner, in an attempt to convince themselves that it will get better. Children who are witnesses of this behavior are more likely to grow up and commit these acts themselves. We'll start off by describing physical abuse. Physical abuse is the most recognizable form of domestic violence. It involves the use of force against the victim and causing injury. The next one, emotional abuse, involves the destruction of the victim's self-worth and is brought upon by persistent insult, humiliation, or criticism. Emotional abuse can be a difficult type of domestic violence for many people to understand, since on the surface it appears to be quite common in unhealthy relationships. In most states, emotional abuse is not enough on its own to bring a domestic violence action unless the abuse is so persistent and so significant that the relationship can be labeled extremely unhealthy. The third form of abuse, sexual abuse, is a common form of domestic violence. It includes not only sexual assault and rape, but also harassment, such as unwelcoming touching or other demeaning behaviors. Financial abuse may take on many forms, such as a husband preventing his wife from obtaining an education or a job outside the home. Financial abuse is extremely common, particularly when families have pooled their money into joint accounts and where there is little to no family support system to help. Financial abuse is simply another form of control, even though it is usually less obvious than physical or sexual abuse. The final form of abuse, psychological abuse, is basically a catch-all term for intimidating, threatening, or fear-causing behavior. This behavior must be persistent and significant. A one-time event generally won't be enough to bring a domestic violence action. A wide variety of behaviors fall under the same umbrella as psychological abuse. Some common examples include preventing the victim from talking to people unless they have been given permission, preventing the victim from leaving the house, threatening the victim with violence, or emotional blackmail for doing something the abusive partner doesn't agree with. Like emotional abuse, psychological abuse may not, on its own, be enough to bring a domestic violence action unless it's especially severe. Stalking is also another major issue that doesn't go as unnoticed as domestic violence. Over 7.5 million people in the past year were victims of stalking. When most people think of stalking, they think of some old creepy man hiding in the bushes. When in actuality, stalking is much more than that. It does not only pertain to a certain age group as people think. Ever since the birth of the internet and social media, it has been significantly easier to stalk and follow around victims. Many people who are stalking nowadays do it through the internet. These people like to get on social media and make sure they can see every one of your posts. And stalking doesn't only pertain to people you don't know, it could be someone you know too, or even someone you're in a relationship with. People like this will often check text messages and social media sites to see what the victim is up to, who they talk to, and who they are with when they aren't with that person. Domestic violence and stalking are serious matters that are too often unreported, partly because victims are unaware of the different types of domestic violence. If you are a victim, know that you can be helped. There are resources out there: police help, legal prosecutor of the abuser, restraining orders, and institutional support. Even here at OHS, you can go down to the nurse's office and receive help from a domestic violence counselor. These counselors will keep the information you share with them safe and make sure that you can get the help that you need. If you are in a domestic violence situation, please seek outside help. I'm Dylan Papa, reporting from WBUC.
You never think something like that would be happening in the area in which we live.
It's terrible to hear that we have these issues in the community we live in. Hopefully in the coming years we'll all be able to overcome this.
Hopefully we can make progress to work towards that. Now to round out the show, we'll be hearing from the newly elected mayor, Billy Barlow. Chase Pelton got a chance to talk to him in our studio here at the high school. So now let's send it over to Chase to get to know more about our new mayor.
Thanks, Jake. I'm here with Mr. Billy Barlow, the newly elected mayor of Oswego, who was kind enough to come down to our studio to talk with us. So thanks for stopping by, and congratulations on your new position.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, now just to go straight into it. After going through the campaign process and election day, which must have been stressful, what has your experience been like, and what's it like to be mayor now?
Obviously, the campaign was stressful, but it was very exciting. Obviously, my approach was to just get out, knock on as many doors as I could, talk to as many residents as I could, and really get a sense of what was frustrating them with city government and what they hoped would change quickly and what they wanted to see change the most. So obviously I thought I crafted and carried the message that appealed to voters, that really was what they wanted to hear, the changes they wanted to see. Kept that clear and consistent all through the summer, all through the fall while we were campaigning, and obviously we had a great get out the vote effort on election day, and it worked in our favor. The first 2 weeks in office now have been obviously very busy, but we're settling in to the new job. We're really trying to change some things at City Hall right out of the gate, setting a fast-paced city government, trying to get the councilors comfortable in their new positions, and everything's going really well so far.
All right, well, that obviously worked out well for you, now that you're in the seat.
Yep.
So what initially got you into politics, and then beyond that, what got you to run for mayor?
Well, I was born and raised in the city of Oswego. I left and went to school at Arizona State for 4 years, and when I returned home from school, I didn't really recognize the city that I remembered growing up in. A lot of the downtown shops were closing, the streets were in poor condition, the neighborhoods were somewhat falling apart, and at the same time, what I was reading in the newspaper coming from city government wasn't really lining up to what I was seeing on the street and the difference I saw in my 4 years away from school. At the same time, the current counselor in my ward announced he was retiring, so I said, why not? I jumped in, ran for city council. And then I noticed on my 2 years as council, a lot of the ideas were being stifled at the top. And I thought that I could make more of a difference and have more influence, if you will, running for mayor and being the mayor. And I thought I could bring my energy to the executive position in city role, and that would be more beneficial to the residents. So I decided to run, and obviously we won.
Okay, so I've heard around town that you're now the youngest mayor in New York State, and I was just wondering, did you face any stigma about that during your campaign? Was there any adversity that you faced, and how'd you work around it?
I think my opponents tried to use my age as a negative, and they tried to turn it as, don't vote for him because he's only 25 years old. Obviously, I knew that would be their strategy. That's why I had to go out and talk to as many people as I possibly could and hit as many doors as I could. I also embraced my age. I mean, the fact was there was nothing I can do about being 25 years old. I can't change my birthday. So I just went out and I explained that maybe I wasn't the typical 25-year-old and that my youth was an asset. We need somebody with energy, with ambition, with motivation in City Hall. Somebody who's going to go out and actually promote Oswego, look for additional resources and help for Oswego rather than just sit in the office. And that's the way it's been for far too long, and it really shows. So I think obviously the public embrace that sort of sentiment, and they too view youth as an asset in government.
And of course, we've all just heard the expression, age is just a number.
Age is just a number.
Yep. All right, so what do you feel edged you over your opponents and got you that win?
Well, I think that the public saw my youth, or my energy and ambition when I was going to doors, and they saw how I campaigned, how hard I campaigned, how passionate I was, how bad I wanted the job. And they I'm sure that they thought that because I was working so hard in the campaign, I would work that hard in the mayor's office. And of course, I will work that hard in the mayor's office, and I already am. But I think that really resonated. They saw how hard I was working. I also kept a clear, consistent, positive message. I didn't get involved in any political games and all of that stuff. And I was very clear about what some of my goals were. Obviously, those goals the public agreed on, and I look forward to working to achieve those goals in the next 4 years.
And we look forward to seeing the progress.
Yeah.
All right. Now that you're in office, what are your immediate priorities for Oswego?
Immediately, when we walked in the door, I wanted to accomplish a couple of things right out of the gate. Number one is a city website. The city website we have currently is outdated. It needs a total overhaul. In the 21st century, a lot of times your internet presence, your website is the face of the city. It's what you use to promote the city. So that is something that we need to fix coming right out of the gate, and we're working on that right now. Also, the atmosphere at City Hall needed more energy, but even more than that, needed to be more customer service, more friendly to the taxpayers. So changing the culture, making city employees more friendly, happy to come to work. And I think that there is a little buzz in City Hall that hasn't been there in a long time right now. Fixing that atmosphere is something. We have great people that work at City Hall, and I think that they enjoy coming to work. And if I can make that a more pleasant experience for them and a more pleasant experience for folks who stop into City Hall, I think it's advantageous to the city as a whole.
Yep, and a more interactive government's always good for the residents, and it's
Yeah.
nice to see.
Well, being out in the public, spreading news around easier, participating in things like interviews at the high school and SUNY Oswego and things, obviously is advantageous to everybody.
Yep. All right, so long term, what do you hope to see happen to Oswego during your time here? What kind of goals do you have set up for yourself?
Two real goals that I'll be focused on for 4 years. Number one is trying to revitalize downtown, trying to fill those empty storefronts downtown, make downtown less pedestrian. It's very intimidating right now if you try to walk downtown, try to cross 104. I look forward to try to make that more of a friendly atmosphere downtown so that people want to go down and spend some money downtown. Also coming up with a parking plan so that some local developers and investors can enhance downtown, make it a livable, walkable downtown, and develop the upstairs areas of some downtown stores will help the city as a whole. Number two, long-term goals are quality neighborhoods and how we can address some of these blighted properties that affect all of our home values, and also they affect the aesthetics of the neighborhood. Right now you can drive down the block and have a block of nice homes, but the one blighted property on the block can affect how you feel about the entire neighborhood and the value of that neighborhood. So coming up with an adequate code enforcement office that addresses those properties that are consistently problematic in relatively well-off neighborhoods is something that my administration, if we can adequately tackle that and kind of reverse the trend there, I would view my administration as a success after 4 years.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing how Oswego looks after the end of your 4 years here as mayor. And that's all we have for today, so I want to thank you again for stopping by.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
All right, and now we'll send it back over to Jake and Olivia with the rest of our program.
I never expected that Mr. Barlow had to go through that much while he was campaigning. He's a hard worker, and I can't wait to see what he'll do in the coming years.
I know. Hopefully he'll do something about potholes in Oswego.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's it for this week's episode of the Buc Buzz.
Make sure you tune in next week for more of your local and school news.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.